You take that as a nose profile, and then you can remove it from everything.
Anything that's constant.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Like the drone of my voice? Can you
edit in a handsomer voice?
A better sounding voice.
Hark the voice of Jesus calling. Come and work for him today. The fearless one and the hardest falling. Come and work for him today.
Welcome everyone. Today is November 11th, 2021, and tonight in the Museum of Modern Games we will be discussing Kentucky Route Zero. This episode was originally recorded back in April of 2021. As always, this podcast is intended for people who have played the game, and as such we will be making no effort to avoid spoilers. You have been warned. I know I keep saying that the audio quality will improve in future episodes, and I promise it will. But there are still a couple left on the old microphones, so I appreciate your patience there. Keen listeners may also notice that I actually refer to this episode as episode 5, and that's actually because we cut an episode that we will be re-recording in the future. I know you're thinking, wow, I've listened to the episodes they've released. How bad could that episode have been? But it's for a very, very good game, and we will be re-recording that and releasing that in the future. So that's hence the confusing reference to this being episode 5, when it is, in actuality, episode 4.
Well, welcome everybody. Today,
Episode 5!
we're going to be discussing Kentucky Route Zero. I gotta say,
like the route itself, this is going to be just a meandering.
Honestly, if I had to pick one word to describe this game, it would be meandering.
Yeah.
I gotta say I had mixed feelings about this game, but I am very glad that it exists. It's, I think it's a great time to be...
It's a great time to be a gamer.
Niche games like this can be developed and find an audience, and I think that's fantastic. I gotta say, there is a complete lack of conventional gameplay and challenge in this, and that's going to turn a lot of people off. Yeah. And it doesn't even really tell much of a story in the traditional sense.
No, this let me fix this for you.
Mm-hmm.
This game is modern art in game form. And I mean that if you like modern art, if you like going to fancy art gallery and seeing, like,
if you're a fancy person
and you like go to an art gallery and seeing like a vacuum cleaner with graffiti on it, right? Then
you probably would like this game.
Then you probably will like this game.
Or installation art. Is that
exactly. Like if you're really into performance art, you're gonna love this game.
Honestly, I was just bored by certain sections of this game, and I didn't like it as much as I wanted to, but it does contain a lot of memorable scenes, and it conveys its tone very well, and what really initially got me interested in this game was the graphics, the art style. Yeah. And I still think that stuff is fantastic.
Right. There are facets of this game which are very, very well done.
Yeah.
And
there's exploration of some kind of uncommon themes.
Yep.
But is it enough?
Is it enough? No. That's my verdict.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's kind of a good game for us to talk about, just because there's a lot of different things happening, and whether or not it is a good game is a very interesting thing to talk about.
It is a tough game to even discuss in our typical format, really. We're going to have to kind of shift things around because so much of what we normally talk about doesn't even apply.
Yeah,
in this case. But yeah, let's get into the development briefly. It was developed by Cardboard Computer and published by Annapurna, who are kind of known for publishing unusual games. They published Outer Wilds, which we discussed.
Which is a good game.
Oh, man. The studio is really just 3 people: Jake Elliott, Thomas Kaminsky.
You're nailing these names. That's exactly right.
I said it with confidence, and that's all that matters. And Ben Babbitt, of maybe related to Milton Babbitt.
Milton Babbitt.
He was the game's composer, so I can only assume. It was first revealed in 2011, crowdfunded via Kickstarter.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is.
It is not a normal development cycle for this game. It was released over how many years?
Well, it was separated. The 5 acts were released separately and kind of sporadically throughout development. The first was released back in January 2013, and the last act was actually released recently in January 2020.
Yeah, so 7 years.
A long development, really. But again, 3 people.
Yeah, insane to think about that. I mean,
that is impressive.
Oh, yeah.
I have to say.
Yeah.
There's not much gameplay, but there is a lot of writing, and visually this doesn't seem... it's very inspired visually. It doesn't seem like the art was an afterthought or just farmed out.
Yeah.
It's very... Well, the scenes are very nicely composed.
And technologically, not simple either.
Not really.
Yeah, There's a couple things that are fairly straightforward, but then you'll have other ones like the forest scene, which I'm sure we'll talk about, where there was some programming that went into that, and it was going to be a little hard to pull off, I think.
Yeah. The animation's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of it, but like when you're controlling the cat's, it looks like a cat moving around.
Great. That is true.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah.
And there's different, I don't know, there's like, is it parallax, and there's different like layers and stuff like that. So
and some of it's fully 3D. And
did you get? I had this weird flickering graphical glitch going on throughout the game. Did you have that?
Wait, the whole thing?
Well, not the whole thing, but at certain times I'd get these, and I thought it was like an effect.
Right, it'd be hard to tell. If it was...
Right, but I don't know if that was just something related to my specific video card or what.
I'm not sure.
But anyway, it wasn't hugely distracting, but I didn't know how common that was. Anyway, back to development. It was released for Linux, Microsoft Windows, OS X, and there were console ports for the Switch, PS4, and Xbox One.
That is a wide distribution for such a small game.
Again, I think that's pretty remarkable, really. You just overfilled your glass.
Oh,
it's okay.
It's an audio medium. No one will ever know.
No, except I told him.
Ah, shit.
Another thing I think is worth mentioning, this is pretty obvious, but this was influenced by the works of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Henry O'Connor, and David Lynch.
Wait, was that explicitly called out somewhere?
Yes, it was just on Wikipedia, which
is the only research we do.
My research. I will occasionally click on another link.
So, did it say anything as far as like the authors of the game came out and said that, or how was that presented?
I think it was acknowledged. I don't remember exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Again, very shallow research.
I had heard about the Gabriel Marquez. Is that right? The magic realism.
Yeah. Let's maybe just talk about that instead, because it clearly draws its influence.
Let me name drop the it's 100 years. Wait, is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is the
I think so.
Kind of magnum opus of Marquez, right? And which I have not read. Also,
I have not read many books.
I don't know how to read.
I'm illiterate. I'm not an expert in this genre, but basically, it consists of a near real world setting with fantastical or supernatural elements thrown in, and characteristically, this is done without any explanation being given,
any acknowledgement,
and also the characters in the medium don't seem to regard these elements as being abnormal or remarkable.
It's like a dream. That makes it very dreamlike to me, because in a dream you never second guess something, right? You're always just like, oh yeah,
right.
I'm slowly turning it into an insect. That's a Kafka reference. Right?
It's good to me.
Metamorphosis? Right? Come on.
And there's a ton of examples of this in the game. They're kind of all over the place. The third floor filled with bears. Junebug and Johnny are robots. You got the crow working at the TV station.
Why are Junebug and Johnny robots?
Nobody knows. But again, it's not going to be explained. That's the staple of it.
Yeah, and no one acknowledges these things.
Yeah.
Or at least they don't acknowledge them as being fantastical.
Yeah. The only author I've read is like Neil Gaiman kind of does this, but in his books, the fantastical is like central to the story, typically. So I wouldn't really put him in this category.
Yeah, and I think, and a difference with the magical realism is going to be that it's, in the science fiction and fantasy realms, it's kind of, that is the shtick of the story, where it seems like it's used for...
I don't even know.
Well,
why? It's very
metaphorical metaphorical contribution to the story, though. It's kind of...
But is it, though?
I don't know.
Maybe I'm not getting metaphors.
Yeah.
But anyway, anyone who actually knows about magical realism is just going to be very irritated by the fact that we're talking about it. So maybe we should move on and discuss something we actually know little about.
But no one should have to research a thing to enjoy or not enjoy a game in many ways. Yeah. And I have no problem talking about it from my lens as a semi-educated person who likes to think about things and
maybe can't read.
But I can play a game.
I can push buttons. I gotta say, I don't dislike the concept of this genre, but I also am not like particularly interested in it either. I'm just pretty indifferent to it.
That makes for great podcast energy.
Indifference, baby. Let's move on to the game mechanics and description of the gameplay. This is going to be pretty brief.
Yeah.
Because, again, there's very minimal interactivity here. You could classify it as a point and click, but there's no inventory and there are no challenges to overcome, no puzzles.
There is an inventory. You're wrong.
What?
You pick up the dice and you can you can look at it.
I thought there would maybe be more of that in the game.
Why do you have an inventory? It's crazy. Like that they even went through the trouble of making it.
It must have been something that they kind of dropped.
Well, and they do have the pamphlet, right? They have the pamphlets in there. So like there is a couple things in your inventory.
I never looked at my inventory, and I didn't ever need to.
You didn't ever need to. I mean, but there are a couple. There's very, very light RPG elements, I guess, is what I'm saying. There's an inventory. There's the point and click thing. There's dialogue choices.
You choose dialogue, but it does not appear to affect anything going forward, as far as I could tell.
Yeah, same thing here.
If it did, I didn't notice it. It's more like you're just filling in the details of backstories and stuff as you go, which is kind of neat.
But also, really, this is one of the things that really annoyed me about the game was, if I'm arbitrarily choosing things...
Why bother?
And even more than that, it would be one thing if you could develop a character based on your choices and have some crafting of that character.
Yeah.
But if all of the choices later are going to also be arbitrary and not based on your original choices, then you're not building it. It's
right.
You're almost like, it's almost saying that you can never define this character because if these things don't connect at all, then there's no point.
Like, certainly your choices don't impact what goes on in the future. I would have preferred if there was some kind of branching narrative, but again, this game was made by 3 people.
Yeah.
So I get it. That even in big...
Oh, so they just get a pass. No.
Even in big games, this is something that can be just impossible to pull off,
Yeah, I guess for me, though, it just calls into question the motivation for giving any choice. And now might not be the right point to talk about it, but I do want to compare it with a different story-based game later that I've talked with you about, it specifically not having a ton of impact with your choices, which I think kind of results in a certain type of gameplay experience, which isn't altogether bad necessarily, but it certainly is. It is not your traditional game.
You're not going to tell me what game it is?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know if we were... Okay, it's To the Moon.
Oh, yeah.
To the Moon is a completely different type of game, but...
This is a good thing to talk about, because this whole... this type of game has really become like a genre. There are other games, and I think they're kind of dismissively referred to as like walking simulators and things like that. But games like Gone Home, which I played, and To the Moon, where it's really just like an interactive story. And I got to say, I think I wouldn't want all games to be like this, but I think it can be done well.
Yeah.
I got to say, if we're comparing, I probably enjoyed To the Moon more than this game overall.
Yeah, and so I didn't like To the Moon, certainly not as much as you did. But and for those who haven't played it, To the Moon is essentially, if I had to summarize it, a story in the trappings of like a JRPG,
like with kind of Super NES era. I think it was made in RPG Maker or something like that.
Right,
very basic.
But it's a good story, a legitimate story told well, but in game format. It's like the game is the media. It isn't. Yeah. It isn't a traditional game. Again, it's just that's what they happen to be at their disposal for how they told their story.
And here's a question I wanted to pose to you. Do you think this benefits at all from being a game?
Right. So the thing I said about To the Moon was that I could just see this being a movie. Like, I don't know why I'm interacting with it at all. Mm-hmm. In Kentucky Route Zero, I think there is this is going to sound. I don't want to sound pretentious, okay? But this is my thought. Again, I'm not someone who like knows modern art or anything, okay? But
now, whenever someone says thought, I immediately think of the other newer definition of thought.
THOT.
Sorry, go ahead.
So, oh gosh, this is going to be a little hard, but bear with me, everyone.
It'll be worth it.
You're going to get a lot out of this. So, imagine...
Dragon.
This is...
Sorry.
We'll do a thought experiment to determine the validity of this type of game. Okay?
Okay.
Are you with me?
Almost.
So imagine you are in a room, okay? And you're having thoughts, and you... Oh, tough to imagine. But you have the option of vocalizing something, okay? I know this is super abstract, but bear with me. You have the option of just vocalizing something. Let's say you have the option to scream a phrase, okay? By doing that thing, you have experienced something that you may not have otherwise done. It is purely for you. It doesn't change anything. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But you have some response to it. Okay. Mm-hmm. That is how I feel like a lot of this game is presented. So you are interacting with the game, but it is for you. There is no feedback from the game.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? There's nothing coming back to you necessarily. But when you choose a line for Conway determining something about him, you're contributing it to the game, knowing that it'll never come back to you necessarily, but you have built something in your mind.
You're telling the story to yourself.
Yes.
You're filling in those details. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're getting some satisfaction out of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's that was my realization with this game anyway. Like, trying to enjoy that process as opposed to like thinking, how is this all going to tie together? Or how is it,
I think that's the intent.
Yes.
Clearly. Just going back to this genre as a whole, like,
also, that was the most pretentious segment we've ever had on this podcast.
All these games that have no challenges, I still feel that just by the fact that you're interacting, it does give it kind of a different perspective than a traditional third-person story.
If it was a video.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you're not, like, really able to do that much, even if you don't have a lot of choices that change things, I still think it feels different just by the fact that you're kind of inhabiting the characters in a way.
Yeah.
even if it's quite limited.
Right, and that I think that does go back to that point about you are still kind of making a choice, even if it's just the most trivial of choices.
It's kind of trickery in a way.
So I don't know.
I think it's valid. Gone Home, all you do in Gone Home is you're literally in this deserted house and you're going through drawers and reading notes and kind of
exploring
about what's going on with your family that moved into a new house. There's more to it, but again, experiencing the story in that way is different.
Yeah.
Than because of that discovery. It does feel different. So it's all about execution. But I do think this is I hope they keep making this type of game because I think it can be done.
One other comparing it to one other media experience, I guess, is that S book, the Ship of Theseus.
Yeah.
It's a book that J.J. Abrams, I think, was behind.
And that he thought of the idea and made someone else do all the work.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly right. But it's for those of you who don't know, it's a book that is filled with ephemera and has notes written in the margin of a book that is posing as a library book. So it's kind of it's a story, but it's kind of you as a reader have a little bit of a different experience, and it's kind of similar, right? Like
because there's notes from two other people that have read this book,
right, and are going back and forth. But also you as the reader are making a choice to read those things, and you have a non-linear experience. So in that same way, it's kind of similar, right? Like you're just kind of exploring and pulling back the pieces, as in Gone Home or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
very true.
Next.
Let's talk about what is, for me, the high point of this game, which is the graphics, the visuals. I would describe it as there's kind of simple shapes. There's not a lot of detail. There's not a whole lot of use of color for most of it. No textures, and there's this kind of dramatic lighting a lot of the time. It kind of reminds me a bit of the game Inside, although there are lots of differences too, but there are just, again, so many beautifully composed scenes that I can still kind of, even though have no artistic ability myself, I can still kind of see these images in my mind. Like the town at the end that you're exploring, kind of from this central camera. The scene with all the electronics burning near Xanadu. The bar where Junebug and Johnny perform.
Yeah.
The rum colony. I mean, I can picture these places because they're just so... It's like camera work in a movie, the way they frame shots very deliberately.
Right, and even beyond just the camera work aspect, but the actual... Well, it's kind of like the every frame of painting approach, right? It's like everything here is intentional and stylized.
Oh,
and deliberate.
Even like the Weaver farmhouse.
Yeah,
when you see that and you're seeing inside the house.
It's in silhouette, and then it's not in silhouette, and then all these things. Yeah, and also very that's cool. Technologically, someone has to put a lot of effort to figure out how the hell to do that stuff.
Yeah. How at the end, when you finally get to Dogwood Drive, and it's stark white, and all the trees behind it are kind of washed out of color. Yeah, just a great looking game. It really is a large part of what held my interest, even when other parts of it weren't.
You can basically take any scene from this game, present it to someone, and they'll be pretty interested in it.
You can take any random screenshot, and it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Except for maybe like the road map at the beginning or something. Yeah, with few exceptions.
The Kentucky Route Zero itself, like the strange skeletal tunnel, all that stuff's great.
Yeah, very impressed with that. The highlight of this game, my favorite part of it, was a song that Junebug and Johnny play. I think it's called "Too Late to Love You Now." They play it at that bar, and it was a real highlight because it just. First of all, I wasn't expecting it to be voiced.
Right, that's true.
Maybe like Final Fantasy VI, where it's some kind of weird instrument vocal effect.
Right.
But it's a nice song, and it just fits the game's tone so perfectly. And we'll talk about themes later, but
the interaction that you are contributing the vocal lines is pretty cool.
It is
as well.
It really is.
Yeah,
and that's why I didn't think that, because they had to
they had to record all that.
Yeah.
And they had to make it. I don't know what happens if you wait too long, or they must riff on the same thing.
They must have a vamp or something.
A vamp, yeah. Like
it's good though. It's really good.
Yeah, it's very well done scene.
Just enraptured by that. And then the music isn't used consistently, but it's more like they kind of save it up for key moments. Like there's that theremin song, and there's a couple other songs at key moments. And I thought it was very effective.
That really distracting dubstep non sequitur. That one.
They didn't need the drop. They didn't need to do the beat drop. Come on. It's not 2000 whatever. I can't remember when that was
that popular.
When it blew up. Yeah, really enjoyed the music. I kind of would have liked more, even though you could argue that it wouldn't have been as effective if they had,
because it was more minimalist. Yeah,
I think again, games like this, to me, everything else when there's no gameplay needs to be top notch. Like I think back to Monkey Island.
Yeah,
because that game had fantastic music, and you were able to appreciate it that much more because you're not so focused on memorizing enemy movement patterns and this kind of twitch reflex type stuff.
That is true, right? Yeah, I guess when you dial down the actual input required from the user, you can dial up how much they can receive from the game.
Everything else.
Yeah. That's true. That's a good, interesting philosophy, actually. Design philosophy for games.
Yeah. I know, it's pretty good. So I can't say anything bad about the music, but again, just give me more. More. Anyway.
We need to work on our transition.
Segues. Let's talk a bit about the synopsis, the story, the plot.
Well, actually, sorry, I gotta go back to graphics for a second. We didn't talk about the forest scene with the striping effect.
That's what the business industry insiders call it, I think.
Striping effect.
Actually is... I remember that when you're running and you're seeing stuff in the foreground, right?
Foreground and background, and it weaves in and out of the trees.
And it's like you're seeing stuff from the museum you were in, or you're seeing it from...
Sorry, we're going to have typing here for a second. Aha! I found it. Okay, so going back to the art style. There was actually a art exhibit, interactive display, apparently as part of something called Video Games Design Play Disrupt, an exhibition at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London in 2018 and 2019. And in it featured some screenshots of the game and development notes about the game.
Okay.
And some of this is available online. Someone did a really nice job of just taking a ton of pictures and posting them. But it includes things like the internal developer wiki that they put together while they were developing the game. And it includes a picture. Yeah, so there's this painting of a man astride a horse by surrealist artist René Magritte, I believe is how it's pronounced.
Okay.
And in it, it has that same striping effect where the person on the horse is visible, but only in vertical elements of it, okay?
Interrupted by trees in the foreground.
Exactly. And so the same thing is mimicked in the game, but that was the inspiration, pretty clear inspiration for that scene. And again, this is another thing that where it's like, technologically, it took a lot of work to do this, I am very sure. And it's interesting visually and keeps you really engaged in the game. But I think that it's also somewhat of a dead end in that you go through all the effort of doing this, you use it once, it isn't a clear... There isn't a ton of reasoning or justification given for why it's happening that way, you know?
Other than that, this is aesthetically interesting.
Yeah. So I guess that was my only note there, but yeah, we'll put links to this wiki too so you can see the actual original picture there.
Oh, yeah. Huh. Cool.
React with more. Emote more.
Oh my god.
It's the greatest thing ever.
It's beautiful.
It's full of stars. It's a 2001 reference. My god. It's full of stars. Okay, now we can go on.
Now we can go.
That was totally worth the 12 minutes that it took.
Absolutely. As we said before, this game doesn't have much of a story in the traditional sense. You just have this vague goal of trying to find an address to deliver an antique. And you come to find out that you have to navigate the titular 0 to get to it. To me, one thing I think about with this game is, again, scenes versus story. It's more about the scenes. It's all about the oddities and the characters that you encounter along the way. And as you said before, meandering is the word. Yeah. You probably are going to forget why you're even doing the thing you're doing. I know I did several times. It is all kind of loosely connected, but
right.
Who cares?
And there are characters and everything that show up in different acts and everything that you can place together, but not honestly, not in any meaningful way.
Yeah.
Which to me, I don't know why connect them at all if it isn't. Yeah, I don't know. We've been talking about this over and over, but yeah, it's
one
the same
example
thing.
Is the whole stuff with Xanadu, and I forget the guy's name. I don't know many characters' names in this, but it was kind of interesting. But at the same time, like, what is going on here?
Right, and
they have a computer that they're growing mold on.
And they establish these concepts, which I'm very intrigued by. And then they don't do anything with them.
Then you just play it as like a text adventure game, and then you somehow use the data from it to find the address. Like, it doesn't make sense at all. This guy's connected to Joseph from the gas station at the beginning, and also to Lula Chamberlain.
But again, no meaningful.
It's like a series of vignettes almost.
Yeah,
and they just kind of strung things together. It's sounding like I'm being negative about this, and I'm not really, because that's kind of just their. It feels like a deliberate choice.
Yeah, but it also feels like a lazy choice to me, honestly. Like, if I'm being real about the game, this game, I think, could have been so much better had you made some effort to say something specific, as opposed to just embrace the cop-out of, we're going to make things interesting and then let the person playing do all the work.
Well, it definitely seems like they didn't start with the story. They started with these interesting scenes.
Yeah, which is totally also...
strung them together.
The wiki bears that out.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, hey, this is the scene, this is what's going on. And they have random tangents that they didn't do, and they're like, what if there's a puppy that, whatever, right? But again, is that... What does that mean? Does that make it... That certainly doesn't make it good by virtue of just that itself, right? We've got things that we got to do.
Did you have any interpretation of what the zero is? Because I didn't really, to be honest.
No, I don't. I love the representation of it. Again, I love how they did it, and the whole, like, go clockwise until this, and then back. Such an interesting way of reimagining a topographical interface and everything.
Well, even the space itself defies conventional reason.
Yeah, exactly. It's a non-Euclidean space.
Clearly like this kind of dream world.
But why? No idea.
Yeah. Oh, maybe this is just not me understanding the inspirations even for this game too, but I don't know.
But we should run down the plot.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I can, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if I can, and I don't know if it would be that interesting to talk about.
I mean, I guess
let's maybe talk about the themes a little.
Yeah, let's broad stroke as far as you find the zero.
Mm-hmm.
You end up learning about a company that is a distillery that buys.
The distillery is an interesting thing to talk about.
It is, and I'll just kind of run through the broad strokes and we'll dive in. Okay. The distillery, in effect, buys debt, and you are eventually tour the facility of the distillery and realize that their people have become indentured to it and are reduced to these skeletal energy shapes, and then
which leads to a really strong moment in the game,
right?
Later.
And you eventually, gosh, man, it is hard to discuss.
It's hard because again, there are loose connections, but you don't even remember why. You eventually find out through the whole mainframe. You come to find out that the address you're looking for, 5 Dogwood Drive, you need to go on this Echo River to get to it. So then you get on this kind of barge and go through all these other random locations to get to it. There's the whole sub thing with the distillery, which again is the whiskey is made from dead. It's aged in coffins. There's all of these kinds of these strange concepts. All the employees are kind of like indentured, and they are all reduced to these faceless skeletons. So that was one of the more interesting aspects of the game. But again, I don't know. It's not meant to be
told as a traditional story. Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
As far as
if you want to find out, you can play the goddamn game. See what you think.
You can explain it to us. How about that? Themes. We got that whole exploitation and debt is central. People frequently are also not wanting to be honest about how dire their situation is, especially Conway. There's this theme of these large companies that have kind of total control over people's lives. You get the mining company, the power company.
Yeah.
There's the whole theme of there's a lot of references to waste and old technology. Probably the biggest one is the past. You know, people being stuck in the past, unable to move on from the past for a number of reasons. A feeling of the past being this kind of clutter that keeps you from enjoying the present. people in the town in the end, where this company was definitely exploiting people, but once it left, what reason was there for everyone else to stay? But still, some people were having difficulty moving on.
Yeah, and this is all interpretation of what's going on in the game, but like these are only very, very lightly touched upon, right? They're not hardly anything are you knocked over the head with in this game, so it's
which I prefer.
Nothing is on the nose for sure.
Yeah, I guess you have to choose between the extremes of like a clear agenda or just leaving it very open-ended. I would prefer to have it more open-ended, but
similar to Disco Elysium.
It's a very American feeling game, and I didn't look at because these are. I feel like these are common American themes.
That is true, but I don't think the development
they may not be American. My research was maybe 10 minutes. One of the guys doesn't have a very American-sounding name, so
racist.
But I felt like,
you definitely feel these issues, and partly this could be us projecting our lens on this game.
Yeah.
Well, I guess with the whole Kentucky thing, it has to be American, right? Because it's literally the map and everything of Kentucky. That's actual.
It's
map.
The most accurate map of Kentucky
that exists.
Has ever been made, actually.
If you see a giant bird flying around with a kid on it in Kentucky, you'll know you're near Kentucky Route Zero. Julian is the best character in the game.
More Julian in the sequel, please. More Julian. Kentucky Route 1.
Julian. I'm trying to think of the Sky equivalent of
Infinity, maybe?
Imaginary numbers?
Go the Bioshock. Is it Bioshock
there we
Infinite?
Go. Yeah.
I gotta say, this game, this is a stupid thing to say, but I was like, ooh, mammoth caves. I like caves. I don't get to go into a cave.
I know exactly what you mean. We're idiots.
We're very shallow.
I'm pretty sure this game will have caves.
I like spelunking. Caving.
Oh, man.
Yes, I don't know if I have a whole lot more. Again, we could try to summarize the plot, but I don't think...
I mean, as long as we're rocking into spoilers, I think we should talk about some of the most...
Let's talk about some
I'm going to use the word impactful, which some people
impactful moments.
Number one, impact. Ooh, can I get your top 3 moments? Go.
Top 3 moments. Okay, I'm
going to
think just a minute.
Don't think.
Blurt them out. Okay. Number 1.
Hold on. Can I
hold up.
Okay. Wait.
Number 1.
No. Before you even say that, I wish everyone could see. You wrote 400 or 500 pages of notes about this game.
More than text in the game.
Chris puts a lot more effort into this than I do.
I kind of just read a brief summary after every gaming session of what I did. And with my photographic memory... No, I would say number 1 is definitely the song Too Late to Love You Now. Junebug and Johnny, I love you. Number 1 fan. I really like that. And the second one had to be when Conway was taken away.
Yes.
Just wordlessly.
Yes.
By the other employees of the distillery. They were kind of tailing you through the Bat Cave, not the Bat Sanctuary. The Batman comes in. I didn't think that was needed, but the way he's just... He had, even prior to that, had been making bad decision after bad decision. The alcoholism.
Yeah.
Resigning himself to this fate without thinking about it.
Yeah.
And he's just reduced literally to this faceless form.
Yeah.
Indistinguishable from these other... It was like pretty... I don't want to say intense, but it was emotional, certainly.
Absolutely emotional. And
in a way that was rarely present in this game.
Yes, and I specifically want to call this, relate this to an experience I had when reading Tender is the Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald. for those of you who don't know, the book follows a very...
For those of you that aren't as well-read...
we got to make Melville references and other things every... it's not an easy read.
It's a challenging book. Sorry.
Anyway, the book follows a guy literally named Dick Driver, which I'm not making
That has
up.
to be someone's poor name. It just has to be.
Anyway, in very high society, in typical Fitzgerald, worldview, but it follows his experience in the French Riviera and in these very, high levels of society. And you find yourself kind of rooting for him, but the way that it plays out is how the novel, after a long time of following this character, it kind of just says, and then he moved to Wisconsin and became a doctor in this small town, and it just kind of drops him in a way that it's very... At first, you're it's very unsatisfying, because there is no denouement or anything like that. But that's the whole point. Is it just, you're smirking right now? Why?
I'm just thinking, you're putting all this meaning into it, and Fitzgerald was like, oh, fuck it, I'm done with this book. He moved in, yeah, okay, done, I'm done.
I'm done, this is it.
Fuck it.
No, but it really punches you in the gut. Having that kind of just subtle drop, kind of just, it's like...
He's like, I wrote one good ending for a book. I don't need to hit it every time.
It's the opposite of Do Not Go Gently, right? It literally is. And that's what makes it such an impact, is because it's just kind of this wordless goodbye.
Just went gently, baby.
Went gently. Yeah, I will go gently into that good night.
Doesn't sound so bad. Anyway, back to me. Back to my stuff.
Okay, but I agree. That's my point.
The third one is a little trickier, but gosh, if I had to pick one, I really liked the town at the end. Honestly, it was kind of.
I was going to say maybe the horses, the neighbors.
The neighbors scene, yeah, that was kind of. But the other one that stands out to me is the memorial for the miners. For some reason, and you just kind of canoe past it. Yes. And there's a text. I'll find the quote here, because I actually did write this down.
If you can comb through your volume of notes.
My rich catalog. Oh, I liked how they used coffins for the aging process of the whiskey. Because you see how there's tasting notes on the coffins.
Yeah.
Are people are they eating the dead bodies? But then I thought that was a cool touch. Again, it kind of ties in with a lot of the themes. But okay, so this memorial consists of a bunch of helmets floating in the water, which is pretty striking visually, and it basically condemns the power company for trying to save money on safety measures, which then resulted in the deaths of these miners. And one thing it says is their lungs were black, but now they are washed clean and filled with water.
Oh yeah,
and it was good.
Yeah,
it gave me kind of some chills.
Yeah,
so that's probably my third moment.
That's good.
What about you?
Oh man, I mean the first two are the same. I think the song and the
I feel like
Conway leaving are
the standouts.
Yeah, for sure. Otherwise, I mean, I was intrigued by the cave scene, and I kind of I love the exploration of kind of.
It seemed like they're getting into some interesting stuff.
idea, and then they just drop it. No, the digital degradation and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm into that, because think about just the internet now and how many dead websites there are. How many digital archaeology will become a thing, and
I will study it, and I will found it, and people will respect me.
But it makes me think about how we're discarding stuff digitally, and how things are decaying that way too, and bit rot and everything like that. And there's interesting themes there,
but it really wasn't fleshed out to me.
Yeah, but I did like the whole notion of it in that scene, and not as impactful of a scene. Impactful again.
I like how you can ask the distillery guy for different ways to get this computer working again, and one of them is literally just turn it off and turn it back on again. I like how that is something that will actually work. I had one other. Oh, I was going to ask you, what scene did you think was the most pointless, or did you most ask yourself?
Okay,
why?
Oh, I know this one.
Why?
This one I know.
Okay.
In an otherwise very good scene, I think the scene at the bar. I think it was an interim scene or whatever they're called. Intermission.
The conversation. Yeah.
Where there's an audience and there's a bartender and a lady drinking.
And you have to look around.
And you're looking around and everything. Yeah. A cool scene. I liked it. I honestly was engaged by that scene pretty
I was too.
Well.
It was interesting.
But wait, was it? Hold on. I might be confusing scenes, which just goes to show you how little it means. But there were sandwiches. Do you know this?
A brick sandwich.
Brick sandwiches. Are we just being edgy? What the fuck?
Edgelord. I kind of thought it was...
What does it mean?
You know how you want a sandwich, but you also want a brick? You never felt that way? For me, it was the goddamn questionnaire you fill out. I can't even remember much of it because I was honest to God falling asleep. But it's on the Echo River. And
I didn't do it.
Oh, God, it's so boring. It's like, at that point, it's like the game is just like legitimately just fucking with you.
Yeah.
And like testing your patience.
Did you call the phone number in real life?
I did not.
I called the tourism phone number in real life. It is a real number. You can call it. It has all the recordings. You can press the numbers and go through it and everything.
That was also like very boring to me.
Yeah, I mean...
Very boring.
I agree. I think it's hilarious. Not hilarious, but I think it's interesting that they did it in real life.
That is kind of cool,
but also,
if I didn't
why?
do it in the game, I certainly don't want to do it in real life. Look, I mean, we've kind of come off as negative on this game, but I would just want to emphasize there are good things here.
Oh, yeah.
I don't regret playing this game.
Yeah, no.
I mean, honestly, this being the 5th episode, of the games we played, this is probably my least favorite. And
yeah.
I did want to like this. I did want to like it.
Totally.
But I would still give it probably, like a 6 out of 10 if I'm being generous.
6 out of 10. Oh, man. 4 out of 10 from me. Being generous.
I think for me, a 5 is a game is that I am totally indifferent on. And above 5 is I did.
Okay, I see.
I did enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, I will also make another kind of analogy for this game where it's like, Zack Snyder makes a bunch of movies and he has really cool scenes sometimes and there's really cool visual stuff, but overall the movie's just fucking hot garbage. Like, that's how I feel about this game. It's like, get these 3 people who made this game. Mm-hmm. Have them talk with a storyteller and someone who is more interested in making something that has a little bit more of something to say. Yeah. And making a more organized and thesis oriented. And I'm not saying you have to like beat someone over the head with it, but just have a more thorough explanation or a more thorough exploration of a topic with choices that make an impact, with some actual gameplay functionality, and then bring in all the good things from this game. I think it would be really interesting.
Yeah. I certainly would have liked more momentum.
Yeah, it is the meandering.
There was like very little pulling me forward. Other than like what...
But then I gotta do this goddamn podcast.
Well, would I have finished this game if I wasn't in the podcast? Yeah, I probably would have.
Yeah.
I probably would have enjoyed it more if I had played it a chapter at a time. It was a bit much to play this all together.
Yeah.
That may have helped it a bit, but again,
I was holding out hope that there would be a reveal. There would be a
new mall
prestige in Act 5, and it just didn't happen.
Well, but aside from the Conway being taken away,
yeah,
that was kind of
that was the
high point. Yeah, I guess. But anyway, don't regret playing it. 6 out of 10 for me. Didn't love it, but I guess I admire it in some ways.
Oh yeah.
Just didn't like it as much as I wanted to.
Cut. Do we have anything else to talk about? Is that it?
I think that's about it.
We nailed it.
Perfect. You win. Perfect.
Cool. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please tell your friends, subscribe, review us on your podcast platform of choice, and we would very much appreciate it. We also have a website, the-mmg.com or themuseumofmoderngames.com. That's all one word, no punctuation. And from there you can find links to all of our various social media presences and a list of the games we're planning on playing next. We would love to hear your thoughts about the games we have covered, as well as any suggestions for games you would like us to discuss in the future. And if you support us on Patreon, you can get a number of perks like access to our Discord server, and you can even vote on our next game.